Hi, it's Rachel from Treehouse Knits with a quick tutorial on how to knit that thumb in the Selbu mitten where you insert waste yarn in as you're knitting and then you use it as a holder. And once you've knit your entire mitten, you come back, pick up the stitches above and below, and continue the thumb from there. If you have this book, the Selbu book, you'll see on page 50 they show an example of how it is worked. This is what it looks like after you put your waste yarn in and you've knit up. You then come back and you pick up the stitches below, in the row below and the row above, and then you continue on with whatever thumb pattern there is. This is a different way of doing it where you actually put on waste yarn the stitches and let them hang there, and then you cast on, you do a backwards loop cast on, and then continue on with the mitten. But this is the one I'm going to show you how to do with the mitten that I'm working on right now. So the mitten I'm working on right now is a great mitten, and I will put a link down below to the mitten that I'm working on. But you'll see that I have come to the point where I have knit the cuff, I've knit the color work, I've increased right here for the thumb, and I'm now to the point where it says set aside these 16 stitches, and that's indicated by the dark line right there. Set aside those 16 stitches and then continue moving on. So I've knit across my row, and you'll see here's my front, and here we go on the back of the mitten, and I am now to the point where I want to put these stitches on waste yarn. So I'm going to get a different color yarn, and I'm literally going to do exactly what they say to do. I'm just going to use it to knit in this waste yarn. And I'm not going to worry about pattern. I'm just going to get those stitches on this new waste yarn. You want to pick a yarn that's smooth. I wouldn't use the same yarn that you're using. You want it maybe a different color so you can see them better when you're coming back to it. But I am going to pick up those 16 stitches, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 stitches. All right, so then now what you do is you go ahead and you put those stitches back on the left needle, and you just do that. You just slide them back over one by one. And you know, I find sometimes it's easier if I just turn my work and use my right hand to kind of pick them off, but you do what you feel is most comfortable. And I'm almost to the end here. Okay, so now I've got them back on the left needle, and now you just continue working in pattern. So the line above that darker line, and I think you can see it just fine in the video here. So I will go ahead and I will knit 3 of my red color. Then I will knit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of the white, and then 3 more of the red. And I know I always like to see how people knit their color work, and I'll kind of show you how I do mine. I'm holding my red in my left hand. I twist twice just to get a good tension in my left hand, otherwise I'm kind of loose, and I just hold in my right hand like I normally do. So now I'm going to do 3 reds. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to do, what did I say, 9 whites. And I'll show you how I catch my floats. So I'm going to do 1, 2, and in the thumb I like to catch them a little more often because you are sticking your thumb in there and it will kind of cause it to catch if you've got too big of a floats. So I go in here, I put the red over, and I knit, bring the red back and through. I'll show it to you one more time. We're on 4, 5, 6. So red over, knit around, red back, and through, and that catches it in the back. Okay, and I've done 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then it says to do 3 reds. 1, 2, and I like to catch that last one. Even though it's going to be a red, I like to catch on the end because you're turning a corner, and I really want that to be a smooth corner with my floats in the back. So to catch the other side, you wrap around the white, I pick up the red, I bring the white back around, and I pull through. Okay, so then you can kind of turn your work. I tuck in that waste yarn in the center, but you just continue working around your pattern, ignoring that green row until you get to the end, and we'll return there and I'll show you how I pick up the stitches. So let's get a little close up there. There's what it looks like, and we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to the other side. So I've knit several rows, and I think we're far enough along where I can show you now how to pick up those stitches. So I ignored those stitches that I placed in. I've knit, I don't know, maybe 20 rows or so. Normally you'd probably finish your entire mitten first, but for time's sake I just wanted to show you now. So what you are going to do is you're going to pick up the stitches below and above that green row, and now you can see why it's so important to use a different color and a smoother yarn. The different color is going to help you see above and below much better, and a smoother yarn you'll see will be very helpful when we're pulling the yarn out. So it's very similar to an afterthought heel, where you're going to take your needle and you're going to pick up the right leg of each stitch, and I usually do I don't know. I don't think there is a usual. I just start picking either the top or the bottom. I'll start the bottom. One thing that's helpful is to really identify, again, each stitch, just so you can see it. You see in here it's a little bit sunken in there, but it's there. So just kind of pull your work a little just to expose all those stitches. In color work, it is a little bit more challenging because it can be a little bit more bumpy because this has not been blocked, whereas when you're doing an afterthought heel cut in, it's usually the same yarn unless you're doing color work socks. But let's just go ahead and start picking up the right leg. And another thing that you can do is look at your pattern and see that you want to make sure you pick up in color. So it looks like we are going to be picking up on the bottom row a white and then a red first. So we'll look here, and here is the white and then the red. So we just go ahead, and hopefully you can see well, I'm just picking up the right leg of the stitches in the row underneath that row of waste yarn that we knit in. And there's a red. So it's good to just refer back to your pattern. It looks in my pattern that I was going to be doing a white and then a red and then 5 whites. White, red, 5 whites. And we're on a good path here. So I'm just going to continue picking up the right leg all the way to the end, and according to my pattern I should end with a red. And so there we have done our bottom row. Now what we want to do is the row above, and I'll tell you it's a lot easier to pick up that row above if you slide these needles, and this is assuming you're doing magic loop. This is why it's helpful to do magic loop, and you get that section on the cord, because it just gives you a little more wiggle room here. So we're going to go ahead and again pick up the right leg, and I stretch it a little bit to kind of help the stitches kind of show up. If we refer back to our pattern, I'm going to have 3 reds that start out, and I'm right, I've got 3 reds. So we're going to pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and it looks as though I should end on 3 reds, and it looks like I have 3 reds. So we're going to do 1, 2, and there's 1 in there, 3. Do your best to pick up the entire stitch. That will definitely be a help when you're pulling out the yarn, the waste yarn. Okay, so there we have all of our stitches. Everything is secure, so we can go ahead and pull out that green. What I like to do, no need to get a special tool, just kind of pull on your cord a little bit, and you can sort of pick out, just find the end. Once you get the end, it should go pretty smoothly. And it's good to see where the end is. There's the end. You could also snip, which is what you do when you are doing an afterthought heel in a sock. Now this thumb is really a preference for you. Some people don't mind setting aside the stitches on waste yarn and just kind of letting them hang, and then when they get around to the next round above the waste yarn, they don't mind doing that backwards cast on and then picking up stitches when it's time to do the thumb. Everything takes a little bit of time, and pulling out stitches can take a little bit of time as well. So it's really up to you. Now there are some patterns where you're putting X number of stitches on waste yarn, and then you're picking up, when you come back to do the thumb, you're picking up a different number. In that case, this method would be a little more challenging. You'd end up having to pick up some stitches on the side as well. But if you have a pattern where they tell you to hold, say 15 stitches, and then the thumb section says to just go ahead and start knitting with 15 stitches on each needle or 30 stitches around, this way is really kind of a slam dunk way. Okay, we're almost to the end. Just pulling that yarn out. You can see this is why you want some smooth yarn. You know, I forgot to mention too, I am using a needle that is 1 size smaller than the needle that the pattern calls for. I find it's easier to pick up the stitches with a smaller needle. What you want to do is make sure you go back to your original size needle if you do that when you start knitting the thumb. But I forgot to mention that. Okay, we are now to the end, and we have our thumb opening, which is ready to go with the thumb pattern. My thumb pattern is right up here. You'll see that when you get your magic loop into the neutral position, that you are just ready. If you turn your work like this, I am now ready to knit that section of the thumb first and then just work my way across as I turn. So this is the inside of my hand, the kind of star pattern, and then these are the hearts that will be on the thumb that you can see right there. So I hope that was helpful for you. This is another way to do the thumb, and it's really up to you what you determine. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them down below, and happy mitten knitting to you.